But it's now time to flip it a little bit, and we're going to have an awesome Q&A. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honour and pleasure to welcome here to the Heart Stage. Please, can you give it up? They are international social media superstars. Ladies and gentlemen, please, can you give a huge Southampton welcome to Sailing Uma? I feel sad that I didn't have any music. I impro'd, Kiko, I impro'd.
Well, I was trying to make it epic, but...
Yeah, it was epic. Now, we're going to sit down. This is a first for the show. I'm loving this.
I like this. And this is not a couch, so I like the beanbags.
Oh. You might not be able to see now, though. There's quite big speaker stacks. It's okay. You guys all right with us sitting on the floor? Yeah? It's Sunday, we're good. We just went and stole these, didn't we?
Yeah, we have to kind of sink in first.
Just don't tell anybody. Yeah, they will never know. They'll never know. We'll put them back so they don't realise.
You just borrowed it.
So, Kika Dan, welcome to Southampton and welcome to the UK. Is this your first time here?
It is, actually.
Yes.
First time in the UK, first time at a boat show, and first time
I'm going to move around
talking. We adjust ourselves a little bit.
So this is your first sort of public Q&A, I suppose.
Yeah. We had a couple meetups in the past, but not officially.
Okay, so what I think we should do is start off by you guys explaining the beginning of your story. So how you guys kind of, I mean, we don't have like all day, but no, but how did this happen? How did this come about?
Well,
take it away.
We're trying to keep it short and simple. Dan and I met in architecture school in the United States, and we decided that we wanted to travel because traveling was, for us, the best way to learn about other countries, because we've learned in school about architecture in countries and what the world, quote-unquote, needs. But we figured that being present in a certain place is the best way you can actually learn. So when we said that the priority would be to travel, we came across a friend of ours that gave us the advice to not buy a couch. And the idea of the couch isn't just about the couch itself. The more we thought about it, the more we realized that it's more of an idea. So the couch represents a lifestyle where everything is materialized, and it's the idea that people believe that the more you have, the happier you get, which is not necessarily true.
No.
And so we decided that by not buying that couch would be a reminder to live a life of experiences and have a passport full of stamps rather than a garage or house full of material. And so, and that's how basically traveling became a big idea. And then the more we thought about it, the more we talked about this dream, the idea of a sailboat came to mind. And at first we didn't even know that we could live on a sailboat. That's how little we knew about sailboats.
Wait. Did you sail before?
No.
Never. No.
So before you decided this, you literally, had you ever been on a sailboat?
No. I grew up skiing like in the mountains of British Columbia, and Kika grew up in Haiti. There's power boats there, and the Haitians are good sailors, but we never had either set foot on a sailboat before we bought one. Like not even set foot, like didn't even know you could live on them, let alone sail.
That's amazing. I love that.
So the funny part is when we decided we want to travel and we found out, wow, a sailboat is a perfect way because it's like bringing your own home with you. We started Googling, can you live on your sailboat? And we started thinking about ways that maybe as architect and designer, maybe we could figure out a way we can put a bed in there, find a way to have a kitchen in there, and then
we could make it work.
Yeah, and then we Googled it, and then we realized, oh, that exists already. We're definitely not new at this.
People have been sailing for thousands of years.
Yeah.
This is a thing that people do.
Okay, so you had this idea, you decided not to buy this couch, which I'm slightly sad because I have just bought a couch and I'm going to sell it. So if anybody's interested, it's leather and it's brown and it's really nice. But it's gone. So No, it's going. I'm selling it.
Oh, don't buy it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I bought it before I knew you, so
There
it's
you go.
going.
But now that you know us,
Yeah, it's been sold.
get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. So you didn't know how to sail. You hadn't been on a sailboat. How do you go about? Did you take lessons? Did you do your courses, or did you just learn it?
Well,
In the U.S., you don't need license to go out on a sailboat, and I think some places in Europe, maybe in the U.K., it's required. I'm not sure, maybe for insurance reasons or something. But no, you don't even need a driver's license. You can just go out sailing. No requirements at all. So for us, we figured we'd just get a boat and figure it out.
yeah. But so what we did after we bought a boat and we were about to launch and we realized that we've never been on a sailboat on the water before.
Yeah.
We volunteered at a local yacht club to volunteer for races. And so once a month they would have a local race, and we were the youngest, most able people, and everybody wanted us as crew. So and we were eager
Like
to
grind
learn.
a winch and like pull a rope.
We didn't mind running back and forth to fix a line or whatever it was. So yeah, we loved learning, and that's how we kind of started. And then we met up a friend with in one of those races, who when our boat was ready to sail, he came with us as a friend.
Professional advisor.
Professional advisor. There you go. We took him on a week-long trip down to the Keys, and he taught us the basic that we needed to know about our own boat.
He was your mentor.
Basically,
Sure.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Hi, Bradley.
Oh, go Bradley! So let's just go back a step, because obviously you started sailing, but you bought the boat first, right?
Yeah, it was like the
Bold
first
step.
boat we saw and the first boat we kind of fell in love with. And the first boat we ever set foot on, and
Yeah.
the first boat we went sailing on is the boat we have now.
And
Yeah.
we were crossing figures, like, we really hope we like this, because we already got the boat.
Well, we knew as like a whole, I think we'd like it because we already lived in a tiny little room, shared the space together. We already worked together on construction and job sites, and we already liked camping and outdoors, and we knew we'd like travel, and we knew we liked foreign countries. So to us, it was like, I guess if we don't like sailing, it's fine because we'll like the other 90% of it. And it just so happened we like sailing too, so that worked out well. And neither of us have like gotten seasick or, yeah,
You are so lucky.
yeah.
Well, knock on wood, right? I hope I don't get seasick now that we talked about
Not
it.
yet.
Touch it. Touch the wood. Whatever wood touch my head, it's fine.
There you go.
Okay, so you got this sailboat. Now, when you saw it, I mean, it was perfect, right? You didn't need to do much work. No.
That's
You
the
don't-
ideal, isn't it?
You don't get a perfect sailboat for $3,000. They don't exist.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a few at the show, right?
Yeah.
No.
I'm not sure there's much here that's less than $3,000 from like the whole
Maybe
boat show.
they have a little toy sailboats on the other side.
yeah.
I'm not sure you would fit in it though.
A sandwich, maybe. That's it.
No, we got an outrageously good deal on our boat. Kind of knowing it would take a lot of work to fix it up, but we also didn't know anything about sailboat repair. We'd done construction, we'd done houses, drywall, 2x4 framing, concrete, that kind of stuff. So we had a decent amount of tools. We had a decent amount of like not fear of sanding and like getting dirty. But yeah, it was a lot of books and a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of like the worst like the worst time my heart just like sunk to the floor was after we bought our boat, sent it to Florida because it was snowing in Boston. We'd never seen it in the water before because we bought it on the hard. And they picked it up off the truck and the keel was like wobbling back and forth. And I remember getting out the phone and Googling like, should sailboat keels wobble? Like, and so yeah, we got a bunch of comments about swing keels. We're like, no, it's not
That's
swing
not
keel.
it.
Like, should it like wobble? So
Maybe it was trying to be a different kind of boat.
yeah,
Definitely
right.
a different kind of boat.
How flexible is fiberglass? Like, so no, we spent almost a year on the hard fixing the boat up, and then another maybe 6 months in the water getting it ready to go, and then we've kind of just been fixing it ever since.
Yeah.
But your background as architects and your minds are, I think, are very, very different in that respect, because I think you can put all of your knowledge within in architecture to a boat, because it is transferable skills, isn't it?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, you have to learn a little bit new, but sanding fiberglass and sanding drywall is kind of similar. They both suck.
Yeah, they go get itchy at the end.
But I suppose when you got it on the water and you were eventually ready to go, was it the most amazing feeling, that experience of we've done this.
Well, I think
Well,
the
it's the
funniest.
very first time we ever took our boat out into the open ocean, because that kind of felt that way, but it was much less
The first
dramatic
so when
than
we
it should be.
when we launched the boat, because we've never launched a boat before that, I remember as soon as the keel touched the water, I was like, I really hope she stays on the water and not starts sinking down the
floats.
minute. Yeah. And then, but she floated, and so we stayed on the dock and working on her for a couple months. And then we took our friend Bradley for that shakedown sail. And our goal for that sail was to push the limits of this boat, because if she was going to break, we wanted to do it the first day, not 2 years later. So, and then I would also bring our threshold really quick, so that everything after that would sound really easy.
Yeah.
And but the first time we left, it was completely calm. We didn't have a motor, and so we were just bobbing around waiting for the wind to pick up, and that was our first sail.
We made it just outside of the breakwater with just enough winds to get there, and then the wind died. So we spent 3 hours within like throwing distance of the breakwater, and it was like the best. We drank beers, we went for a swim, we were so happy that we like made it to the ocean.
Yeah.
And then the tide turned around and started to like suck us back in, and then the wind filled in and we could like sail back to the marina. So
That was an adventure.
very anticlimactic, but it really did feel like an accomplishment,
Yeah.
because like it was our boat and like we'd finally gotten out into the ocean for the first time.
Definitely.
So, have you experienced some other kinds of weather, some bigger weather systems, and have you ever been in situations not that are life-threatening or scary in that respect, but that have really pushed your knowledge and your experience?
A few.
Do you want to talk about our first shakedown?
Yeah, so the very first time we went on like a proper shakedown sail on our boat, just off the coast of Florida, there's a Gulf Stream that goes up, and they say like never sail in a norther when the wind's coming out of the north, because it's going against like a 4-knot current. And so that's what we did. We went out and sailed in a norther, and so we were sailing south. And the cool thing is, there's about a mile to a mile and a half between the coast and where the Gulf Stream starts, and so we could be in relatively calm water sailing downwind, and then kind of go out and like just see how really awful it can get. And you know, white knuckles, and we're like, how far can the boat keel over before we tip? Like, and then you know, when it was kind of too much, we could jibe in and go back to the beach, and then you know, rest and like drink some water, and then like go back out a little bit further. So it was just this nice little test for about 300 miles we did. That was an overnight passage. And then after that, I don't think we've seen conditions that awful ever since. So it was like the first real sail we did, and it was by far the worst one. And then we're like, oh well, she didn't break then, so you know, next time we're in a squall or whatever, like this is nothing. Like she's not gonna break. She didn't break then, so we're fine.
I remember our very first squall when we were on the sail by ourselves. We were going up in North Carolina for a family reunion. And we saw, but you can see the squall coming from miles away. And then we saw it coming, like, okay, let's prepare the boat, because we didn't have a motor. We have an electric engine. We can get to that later. But so we don't really rely on our motor to push us anywhere. We rely on our sails. And so when we saw the squall coming, we decided, okay, we're going to bring as much sail down as possible, reef the main. We're going to be ready for this. And then the squall hit us. And we were heeled over, and we were not going anywhere because we were
We had
too
this
prepared.
sail area. We're like 40 knots of wind, like that's a lot, right? We just all the sails down.
And then we realized, okay, that's a squall. Maybe we can let a little more sail out and actually go somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, it was the most calmest situation I've ever been on, because the sea was flat and it was just raining, but there was wind, so we were just cruising
We
along.
hit auto and like took a nap.
Yeah, it was one of the only times that our autopilot worked.
Yeah.
You talked about the engine. I'm glad that you brought that up. So it's actually quite interesting what you decided to do on the boat. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, one of the reasons we got our boat so cheap is because it came with a non-working diesel motor, and it's a 50-year-old boat, so usually that just means it goes to the scrapyard, like nobody wants one. So we lowballed them the first time, and they approved it, and then they said that they couldn't get the diesel motor to start, so we're like, as a joke, like, let's offer $3,000, ha ha ha. And like an hour later, the broker texted back, and he's like, yeah, it's yours, they want to sell it. And we're like,
okay.
it's like, that was supposed to be the 5-year plan, and now all of a sudden we're like throwing that out, and we own a boat.
I think that's Canadian for oh dear.
So, yeah, so we knew it didn't have a working diesel. At the time, we thought we wanted to come down to Florida because Boston in the winter is cold and miserable. And so we found a sister engine that we're going to like swap out. It's supposed to be like a direct match. And then spent a month with like every diesel mechanic on the East Coast because the engine blocks were just slightly different. And we were like, how much money is it worth to even do this? And it turned out it just wasn't because, you know, theoretically it'd be possible if you were a diesel mechanic or something. But for us, it was like if there was one spring missing, we couldn't find it. Like we'd be $4,000 into an engine rebuild and like not have, we'd have 2 non-working motors instead of 1.
Yeah.
But at that time, it started to snow and they were starting to like close the shipyard down. So we used like our very last money to put our boat on a truck and send it down to Florida. So at least we could like spend the winter working on it. And that time we flew to Haiti to do a project. We were helping rebuild one of their customs offices in the port that got damaged by the earthquake. So we got like this it was about 4 months off. We got like this 4 months of like not being anywhere near our boat to just kind of like sit, breathe, think about it, make a little bit of money. And yeah, while we were there, we just kind of were brainstorming about, like, we couldn't afford 30 grand for a new diesel, and we didn't really want to spend 2 or 3 grand on one that had been rebuilt, knowing that like it might die the next week anyway. Like you really don't know with rebuilt motors. And so yeah, we're trying to figure out like, you know, there's a sculling oar. Like that's an option. It's pretty much free. You can build your own, but our boat's like a little bit too big to actually validate like rowing. If we had a 25 or 28 foot boat, you could actually do it pretty well. And so then we were like, you know, well, golf carts are electric. There's electric cars. Like electric's a thing that people do now. And golf carts move forward. And like, we were like, how much power do you need to like move a boat?
Yeah.
And yeah, we ended up, you know, the next Google search was electric sailboat motors. And we found out, you know, they've been making them since before diesel motors. So it's not really a new idea. It's just battery technology's never really been good enough to make it a viable option. And yeah, so we ended up scrapping parts out of old boats and golf carts. We bought our motor on eBay for like $125 or something. It came out of a forklift. And then we just kind of pieced it all together to make the prop spin. And once the prop spun, we're like, we're good, we're out, we can leave the dock.
That was the main goal, you can leave the dock.
Yeah, but we only had like 4 lead acid batteries and it was enough to push us for like half a mile maybe. And that's all we had for the first 3 years.
Yeah, we had sails, we had the solar panels, we had the motor, and we had an anchor that we could trust.
And that was good. No shower, no fridge, no windlass, no running water. But we were good enough to leave the dock. So we were out.
And how have you worked with the motor to make it more viable, to make it work better? I know you said for the first 3 years it's only been half a mile, and it's not. I mean, obviously you've done great, but you've got it on board, and I presume you want to push it a little bit more, right?
Well, yeah. The goal is when we come over to Europe to go through the canals. So we want to be able to do like 40 or 50 miles a day on a charge. But the biggest shift is in the last 3 weeks we've gotten 15 kilowatts of lithium ion on the boat, so like we can now do about 20 miles, and that's without we tested it like 2 days before we came here. We were motoring up a river, but I think we haven't even started playing with the adjustments in the actual motor. We can adjust all the settings in it, so hopefully we'll be able to get a bit more out of it.
So what's the best thing about living on board?
So many of them. Well, one of them is to be able to carry your own home with you. That everything that's on this boat is everything we own, and we know that if we want to go somewhere, we don't have ties somewhere else. We can just take everything and just leave. And everything
we own is on our boat. We don't own anything outside of it. So yeah, every time we want to move on or we see a cool picture, we're like, yeah, let's go there. Spend a week planning and then pick the anchor up and we're out. So.
And the fact that, the fact that we are bringing our own power as well, because with the with sailboat we are sustainable and we can create our own electricity and hopefully we'll be able to have some regeneration from a propeller. That's what we're aiming for.
To make more power as well.
But yeah, we don't have to rely on plugging onto the dock or buying diesel to generate, to charge our batteries, and I think that's a big plus.
We've lived entirely off our solar panels for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and all that makes us on our own schedule. And I think that's the best freedom that we could ever ask for.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And you're completely self-sufficient in that respect.
Yeah.
That's
we still need to buy groceries and get water from time to time. We catch rainwater as much as we can.
Do you?
Yeah.
We're not that great of fishermen either.
No, we're terrible fishermen.
That was actually going to be my next question about your food. Are you trying to, like, and you were talking about a garden project. Like, are you going to try and grow your own stuff and try and bring that sustainability up to a different level, or does that not work on board?
Well, we've tried to grow a couple herbs, but the thing with the sailboat, especially in the Caribbean, it gets so hot and it's so humid too that it's hard to grow plants. And I know some people have been successful, and I hope that I could have a green thumb someday. But even if I really love plants, doesn't mean that they survive with me.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
I try.
We blame it on the environment, that it's salty and it's humid.
But really, it's...
we're terrible at fishing, we're terrible at gardening.
But there are certain plants that survive, like orchids. For some reason, they've lost a long time with us, and aloe vera as well.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, they seem to just dry out or be too humid for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about testing it out and see what works, see what doesn't work. And for fishing, we've tried to fish multiple times. I don't know if it's the lure or the equipment.
We drag a fishing line every time we're sailing, and we've caught, like, I don't know, 10 fish in 10,000 miles or something. So, like, I'm not sure if that's a good average or not.
Although we just picked up spearfishing, and we seem to be more successful with that.
That's a little bit more under your own control. If you go down, you see the fish, you get the fish, you bring it back instead of just like throwing it out and like hoping there's a fish, a really dumb fish swimming by. It's like, ooh, shiny.
Try to hold your breath for as long as you can, and then hope the fish doesn't go away.
But we do get asked quite a bit, especially from like our family, like, do you guys just eat fish all day? Because they don't quite get that, like, it's a floating house. Like, we have a stove, we have a freezer, we have a fridge, we have water. But when we left, especially in the U.S., there's this sort of tendency to want a provision. Like, people like, I'm gonna go out for 6 months, so I'm gonna bring 6 months worth of food with me. And we couldn't afford to do that when we left. So we figured, like, everywhere we go, there's people, and everywhere they eat food. So when we get there, we'll eat whatever they're eating and move on to the next place. Some countries it's rice, beans, and chicken, and some countries it's like everything you could ever want. So it's been an interesting balance, but
eating locally is definitely the thing we do.
It's way more affordable too.
And also,
like way more affordable.
Yeah, and if you want to help out a local community, that's how you do it. You buy their products and you give them money for it.
No, our threshold is that a jar of Nutella and Turks and Caicos costs $16 US for like the little one. So like, don't eat Nutella and Turks and Caicos. It's the lesson that we've learned.
Let's talk about social media. Let's talk about your fans and where did this idea come from to be interactive online? Because it actually, from my perspective, I think it's really amazing that you are on this boat, you guys are together, you're having this amazing journey, but then to be able to share that and to connect with so many people, it's just fascinating to watch, actually. And you guys are just completely yourselves, like when they ride, just bouncing in. I was like, it's just like how you were online. That's really cool. That's great. So, and where did it come from, that idea?
Well, when we started with our boat, we've looked for other YouTube channels, and we found a couple.
Google YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking for can you live on a sailboat, and we find other channels, like you're familiar with Delos, and maybe we did Salty and Le Vagabond and White Spot Paris were the four that started about the same time. And the thing that we thought was lacking was how did they get started? Because they just, for us, we realized that they were already doing it when they started their channel, so they were missing the very first step of school journey. And we decided that if we want to share our story, we want to share it from the very beginning. Show how we got from having a couch, how we got from graduating from school and having this blank canvas in front of us. We could get a job, we could have a 9-to-5, or we could actually do what we want to do and take the first step towards that journey. And that's pretty much was the spark of the idea of sharing this whole thing with you guys. And it's amazing, it's fascinating, and we meet so many awesome people, and we're so grateful for that.
How did you manage? Did you already know how to edit? Did you like? because your videos are really well put together. You know that.
Thanks.
But they are. Is it?
How long did it take us to edit the very first video?
About 6 months.
We were on the boat for 6 months by the time we put the first video up, and we started.
How long did it take you to do the boat?
Well, it's not.
Well,
there's no such
3
thing
years?
as done on a sailboat. Like, there's good enough to leave the dock, and then there's like a 5-year plan. But
no, but the first video, I
we'll let
remember.
you know when we get there.
We were starting it when we were in Haiti, and we were drawing this the bar couch diagram, right? Because we wanted to make it as clear as understandable as possible. And the camera was up there, and I was drawing all the thing, and I had to take a picture every line. So it took me like 6 hours just to get that little section done.
It's like a week worth of work to make like one little whiteboard animation.
And then my brother came to me, and he's like, Kika, like, what are you doing? I was like, oh yeah, we're working on our first video. It's like, what are you doing to edit? Like, oh, I haven't thought about that yet.
Just have all the pictures and like little video clips and like
maybe Windows Player, you know, whatever I had. And he said, well, I have this program and it's great, and I can give it to you, and you can just learn to do it. And I'm like, okay. So he gave me Final Cut, and I started using it for that first video. And then the more I tried it, the more skill I had on it. And now it takes me maybe 2 days
now
to
just
edit.
like types and videos get edited. It's amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very good program, but it takes practice to learn it. Yeah.
And how do you come up with all of the ideas for the videos? Is it something that happens in that week, or is it like, do you have a plan, or?
I think it's like when we have a question about doing something, we do a ton of research on how to get it done, and then we went, you know, if we had a question on how to do it, then there's got to be somebody else got a question on how to do it. So then we take all that research, somehow squish it into like a 10-minute video, and then put it out there, because, you know, we can't be the only ones that wondered, you know, how to mix epoxy or whatever it was at the beginning. And then it was the same thing when we were traveling too. We're like, if we think this is an interesting place, somebody else might think it's an interesting place, so let's video it.
Let's share it, yeah. He gets mad at me sometimes because he works on the boat in the Houses project for like 3 weeks, and then I condense it into a 5-minute part of the video.
5 minutes, like 30 seconds. I was like, wait, I installed the windlass. That was 3 weeks worth of work. She's like, that was boring. And I was like,
I have a very short attention span, so I told him, like, if I'm not going to watch it for 3 hours, I'm going to condense it a little bit, just to show the important part that matters.
Yeah, no, sometimes she starts with like 60, 80 hours of content, and she goes through all 80, just in 1 week we'll shoot 80 hours of content. Or we used to. We've gotten a little bit better at knowing what not to film and what to film, but yeah, and then she'd squish it all down into like a 15-minute video somehow. Relatively entertaining to watch.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
We love it. And he does Superstar here.
She gets to be on the laptop, and I get to be covered in fiberglass dust. I don't know who has the better gig.
Teamwork, right?
Yeah. Now, talking about teamwork, I'm not entirely sure, and I would like to get a bit of a reaction from the audience. Who in this room thinks that they would be up for spending their whole time on a boat with their partner? Wow.
That's a good amount.
That is a really good reaction. I did not expect that. My mum and dad worked together and lived together for like 20 years. Honestly, the fact that they're both still alive is a miracle. Like, it is a miracle. No, I'm joking, obviously, but there must be trying times and like the most amazing times as well. Or do you guys just like have a great time all the time? I don't know.
I mean, I guess just like any couple, you have couple moments, right? If you have an argument, then you deal with it, and especially if you live together in a super small space, 24/7.
You have to deal with it.
You don't have the
There's no point
option.
getting mad at each other. You know, there's no point, like, if you get in an argument, it's not like, oh, and you're yelling in the middle of the ocean, you're like, there's no point. Like, yeah, right? I'm leaving. It's like, see you on the bow. Like, there's nowhere to go. So, you have to deal with it. And we both tend to be pretty non-confrontational people. And we lived together before in a very small room, and we worked together already and doing houses and construction. So, like, we already knew we worked well kind of as a team. And then on the boat, it just kind of went pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
But, there's not much drama on our boat.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are nearly out of time, but I'm just going to do a couple of things. So first of all, what is your advice to anybody that is sat in this audience thinking, I want to do that. And by that show of hands, I think it was nearly everybody.
I would say don't wait for perfection.
Yeah.
Just wait for it to be good enough that you can go, and you figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
And you can start now. You don't have
You're often sold like the dream of like you need some $2 million yacht with every bell and whistle to circumnavigate. And the reality is most of the people who circumnavigate do it in boats smaller than 30 feet that cost them less than 10 grand. So, because that's how you can afford to keep going. Like, it's hard to afford to maintain a bigger, more expensive boat. So we always say that, like, if you can sail to the horizon, you can sail around the world. Because, you know, you sail to the horizon, you made it, you sail to the next, it's 10 miles. Like, if you can sail 10 miles, you can sail around the world. There's nothing really stopping you except what's in your mind, right?
Yeah. Now, this is going to be incredibly glamorous. Are you ready for this?
And she's up.
That was way better than what I thought. Okay, I think we've got time for maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. So, are there any questions from anybody? For Danica? Yeah, there's one at the back. I'm just going to run over here. Challenge Danica.
Have you got a new electric motor in your boat yet, or
No.
No?
No. Why? Do you know somebody?
I have been doing research, so I was wondering if you've been doing that or have you found anything.
We started out doing a bunch of research and emailing all of them and getting their quotes and their recommendations and their predictions. And we actually found recently, now that we can actually test our motor, that the motor we have is pretty close to the predictions that we were getting from some of those larger companies. So for now, we're probably going to keep it. The biggest thing we're trying to work out is regen, because that's kind of for us what makes like the whole thing worth it, is sailing and like getting 100, 200, 300 watts while you're sailing just kind of for free. And if we can't get that to work, that will probably be the reason we push to get something else. But yeah, our motor can push us to hull speed for 2 hours, so for us that's like huge.
Great, thank you. Good question. Anybody else?
I love the fact that you've got an old boat and you've done it up, and I love the way you've, taken the kitchen apart and put it together and all this. But in the future, would you think you might get a different boat, or will you just continue to, look like it's one get there? But I think that kind of takes the whole thing that you're doing away.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a fine line there.
There is a fine line. We love her boat, and she's great for us for now. If someday we realize that we need to get something bigger or upgrade for something else, then we might consider it. But as long as we can keep going with our boat now, we'll keep going.
There are limitations to the boat we have. It's 50 years old and it's not designed to be an ocean cruiser, right? So, yeah, people always ask, like, if you could do it all over, would you do it again? And we're like, no. Like, we're glad we did it once, but, like, if our boat sunk tomorrow, we'd probably have to do it again. But there's also nothing stopping us from continuing for another 10 years until something better comes along and we don't have to spend so much time and effort fixing it up again.
Yeah. Okay, you've got a sneaky
There's no Q&A without a question which is sort of like bugs everyone. So monohull or catamaran?
Well, we have one hull, so one hull for now.
Who here owns a catamaran? Okay, monohull.
political.
No, it's really a personal choice and has to do with your comfort level and your bank account, really. I mean, you can't buy a catamaran for under, I don't know, 50, 60, 70. I don't really know what the lower end is, but just even a 50-year-old catamaran is going to be way more than a 50-year-old monohull. So it depends where your level is of entry.
Okay, one more question.
Hi guys, just wanted to ask you, from your experience now, where you are now, what you've done, what would be the advice that you would give to yourself back, like if you just started? What would be your advice, or maybe like the biggest challenge to overcome, or?
Well, one of them would be
No.
no. One of them probably would be to not rush. I mean, Dennis wearing the shirt.
Yeah, in no
hurry to go anywhere ever is something that he said a while ago. Because we are in no hurry to go anywhere ever, and with a couple experiences that we had, we realized that it was because we were rushing into things that made us make mistakes that we're not supposed to be making.
Tattoo that on your forehead if you're getting into an old project book.
So take your time, because taking your time and doing it once is better than rushing it and having to do it over and over and over.
Well, and that comes with everything with sailing too. Even like the planet, like passage planning and everything. You know, if it's not quite right, if you're not feeling it, if one of you is like, meh, that storm looks a little bit, bad or nasty, just wait. Like, you can't be in a hurry. Otherwise, get a power boat. Because it's a sailboat and you're kind of at the whim of Mother Nature.
Right, what we're going to do now is, I think Dan and Kika are going to do a little signing and a meet and greet. What we're going to do is we're going to do it just by the car here, but don't all rush, because we're going to, if you just come out, not sign the car. Damn it! I don't think it'll fit on board, I just don't.
Can you shrink it?
If we can, I'm in. Okay, we'll share. So if you kind of come out the tent to the left, and kind of make a queue down the sort of back there so that we can keep the stage free, because Monty Halls is going to come and he's going to do his amazing speech all about his fantastic family journey to the Galapagos Islands. They spent 3 months there. He was here yesterday, he's absolutely fantastic, so that is not to be missed. He brings his family with him, and it's a really fab talk. So that just leaves me to say a huge thank you to Kika and to Dan. They're going to be back this afternoon at 2 o'clock. For another Q&A. If anybody wants to come back, if you've got any more questions, we've got another Q&A then. Please can you give them an amazing boat show thank you for sailing over.
I just want
So good afternoon everybody, how are we all? Mouths full. This is great. I just look around and everybody is tucking into like amazing dinners. It's like fish and chip Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, this is a huge British thing. Yeah. Yeah, your mics are not on.
I feel like our mics are not on.
Yeah, there we go, we're on. So I'm just going to stand up for 1 second because I feel like I need to see you all just for really quickly 1 second. So guys, welcome to the Heart Stage. If you've just been transported here and you don't know where you are, this is the yachtmarket.com Southampton Boat Show. It's our 50th anniversary this year, so thank you for coming and celebrating our birthday with us. We're really super chuffed with how the show's worked out this year, and it's only just after the first weekend. Like, we've got so many more days left. So it's my pleasure to welcome back to the set. He's gone.
He's right here. What, you can't see him?
He's morphed into the beanbag.
It got so comfortable that he just melted into it.
Oh, wow. Should we play on this? Should we play?
Yeah.
Really
so Dan, how are you today?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now? All right. I think we're back on.
Wait, Dan is sitting here. Don't sit here. I'm kidding.
All right.
So it's my pleasure to welcome back to the Heart Stage today. They are absolute social media superstars, and it's their first one here in the UK. They've come especially to be at the Southampton Boat Show.
Yeah. Ladies
and gentlemen, it is, of course, Kika and Dan, which are Sailing Uma. You can applaud.
I'll applaud, because that was an awesome introduction. Wow.
£10. No, I don't. So guys, you've got your Guinness, you've got your bean bags, you're fully into, you just need the fish and chips and then you're fully integrated into...
Fish and chips, and a proper afternoon tea.
Yes.
We've
haven't
been
got
told
the
we
tea
can't
yet.
leave without it.
Although it is Sunday, so you should go Sunday roast.
Okay.
Sunday.
Yeah, and Yorkshire puddings.
Yorkshire pudding.
We're going tonight, you can come.
Gotta write down the
Yeah,
whole list.
brilliant.
Good to know.
You know we're flying back. There's a weight restriction.
It's okay, don't worry.
Okay.
You're fine. You'll work it off. You've got to walk around the show. Nice t-shirt, by the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. Don't buy taxi
Awesome. Oh, that's a good color too. The Bahamas.
That's a great colour.
Yeah, we call it Bahamas.
Bahamas blue.
That's pretty much what
Of course it
This
is.
is a chalkboard gray because we're all about the
This one's
chalkboard.
coffee. You got it right.
You should do a Guinness colour.
I'm
We
not
don't
sure
drink
what
it. We have
color that
wine,
is.
we've got coffee, we've got chalkboard. What's the other one? Cloudy day, Bahamas blue, stormy sea. They're all
We
like
have port
same.
red and starboard green.
Yeah, it looks like Christmas.
I think I'll go Christmas.
There you go.
Yeah, I still listen to Christmas music now. Anyway, that's a different subject. Right, guys, so thank you very much for coming to the Southampton Boat Show. Now, have you had a chance to have a look around? What do you guys think?
We did a little walkthrough. We love it here. It's awesome. There's a lot of things going on. It's our first boat show.
Everything's
So-
so shiny. Nothing's rusty and like salt covered and sun faded. Yeah.
That's what happens when they're new.
Yeah. Oh, that's new. Okay.
So we've got a few people that were here last talk and a few new faces as well. So we're going to kind of go down a different road for this chat, but I think before we get tucked into kind of questions, it would be really cool for you guys to give a little bit of background about how you are, where you are today, because I think it's important for them to know the kind of backstory.
Okay, well, right now we're here. Well, we're ourselves here. Our boat is in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida for now. We hadn't planned to stay in Florida this long. We were hoping to go up north for hurricane season, but as we've seen, the hurricane is going north this time,
Yeah.
so we're staying
We're
in
supposed
Florida.
to be in Charleston right now, and luckily we're not. So yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to me about hurricane season. Talk to me about how you live on a boat and you prepare for a potential hurricane.
I think knowing about weather patterns is a big part of living on a boat.
Huge.
You always have to be aware of what the weather does, and where to go during certain season, and what to avoid during certain season. And I think preparation is the right word to put in terms of that. Whether it's a storm or a hurricane, like you don't want to be unprepared
Yeah.
in the place.
Well, and luckily with sailing, hurricanes are one of those natural disasters that are incredibly predictable. You know, forest fires, tornadoes, earthquakes, they just happen and like you have no warning. Tsunamis, like even those things. But hurricanes, like, see them coming for a whole week. Like they've got a projected path, they know the strength, they know the size, they know like exactly what it's going to be. So for us, it's just like, if you see one coming, get out of the way. And when we do, like the first year we went sailing, we knew we were going to be in Haiti for hurricane season, and we knew Haiti's like right in the middle of where all of the hurricanes tend to hit. So we made sure we just had a giant anchor, and we knew we were a nice little hole to hide in. And sure enough, when we were in Haiti, we got hit by Hurricane Matthew. And yeah, so it was 3 days of just a lot of rain and a lot of wind. But we had planned like 9 months before, like what to do, and then when it came, like we just did exactly that, and it worked out really well.
So talk me through the practicality of that though. So what's your to-do list?
Well, there's not that much information out there about like how to anchor for a hurricane. Most people either tie up to a dock and leave and hope their insurance company is good enough to cover their boat when it sinks, or just get out of the hurricane belt entirely, which is really the best thing to do.
Find a mangrove.
Yeah, or sometimes tie up in a mangrove, but the problem with that is like when hurricanes, they have wind that spins in all directions depending on like which way they hit you. So there's no real way of predicting, like if you tie up your boat in a single location, you're going to get wind in an unfavorable direction at some point. So like what used to be the thing was to put all of your anchors out in like a big circle, tie them all together, one rope off of it, and hope your boat survives. But now with new like spade anchors, like the one we have from Mantis, it folds down, so we could carry a giant anchor with us on our tiny little boat. And we figured since boats are designed to take wind on the bow and they're more aerodynamic, as long as we keep the bow into the wind, the forces on it aren't going to be as bad. So that's what we did. We put out like a 100-pound anchor, a big giant rope coming off of it, and it was just fine. We never budged in 80, 90 mile an hour wind.
I have to add that ideally you don't want to be in a hurricane.
Yeah, if you can
That's
avoid
like
them.
the number one tip would be don't be there, and which means they announce the hurricane coming for about a week, so you know it's coming, you know its direction, so you know if it's coming towards you, you get out of the way with enough time that after you can always come back. And we had friends that they were in St. Croix last year. It was last year, right? Maria and Irma.
Irma and Maria, the two.
And their first one was pretty good to come, and they knew about it, so they sailed south, waited for it to pass, and they sailed right back. And then the second hurricane blew through, and they knew about it, so they sailed south and met up with us in Curacao. And on the other hand, we had other friends that we met in Martinique, and as we were sailing towards Grenada to be out of that belt, they wanted to go up in the Caribbean, and they ended up in St. Martin. Instead of sailing out of the way, they prepared the boat for 5 days, and they lost the boat.
Yeah.
And we warned them and we advised them to just leave because they had time, but they were new sailors and they were not confident enough in their sails, and they had engine problems, so they decided instead of sailing out of the way, they wanted to stay.
So there's
Does the insurance, how does that work? Does the insurance...
we wouldn't know.
No. Will they not insure your boat?
No. It's too old, it's not worth enough. We had no sailing experience in Haiti for the middle of hurricane season. No one would dare.
We've asked around.
But no, so interestingly enough, though, we've been at a dock in Fort Lauderdale now for 3 months, and it's full of like brand new catamarans and stuff. They're all insured, and all the insurance companies said you have to be north of Chesapeake Bay by July 1st. So they all left and they're up there, and now it's getting hit by a hurricane, which means their boat will be covered. The insurance companies will pay out when their boat sinks, but for us that's not an option. Like our boat sinking is not an option. So yeah. What's interesting about hurricanes especially is when we were new to sailing, news makes it seem like hurricanes are these giant 900-mile-across monster storms. Probably to like scare you into buying a generator and like more bottled water, I think. But the reality is like the eye of the storm is very powerful. But 50 miles out, it's drastically less. So we always tell people like if you're in the way of the eye, if you do a day sail, if you're out by 80 miles, 100 miles, you're in 50 knots of wind. Like it's completely doable.
It's like a normal squall at this point.
Because people see a 700-mile storm coming, they're like, well, I can't sail out of the way. It's 700 miles. Like I've never sailed 700 miles before. But you need to move like 50 miles away. You need to move 75 miles away. We have friends right now in Charleston that their marina, all the boats are fine. 8 miles away, all the boats are underwater. So you don't have to get that far out of the way. You just have to get out of the way of like that eye wall. Because that's what really nasty stuff happens.
Yeah, another option is if you can't get out the way, because sometimes it happens that your boat just cannot be traveling, or you're already on the hard, or you're at the dock. You can always plan to be in a safe area, which means like a place near a hurricane hole. And we found the Rio Dulce in Guatemala, for instance, is a perfect hurricane hole to spend a season. It's a wonderful place too. You can spend months there without exploring and everything. And then, or you can be south enough, like towards Colombia or Bonaire, Curacao, where if there is something coming that way, you can always have a quick sail down south.
We call it having a backdoor, like you always have to have a way of getting out.
Yeah.
Because especially in the Caribbean, if something's going north, you need to be able to sail out south, or if something's going south, you need to be able to get out north. And it's hard to get out of the way if it's coming like, Florida's a terrible place to be, because they all come right up the coast, and like you can't really get out of the way fast enough.
But other places that have good hurricane holes are Cuba and Haiti.
Yeah.
And they're about the only two within the Caribbean islands, they're the only two that actually have protected. And they're protected not only because it's surrounded by mountains and it's like a very secluded bay, but also because you're most likely the only boat in this bay.
Yeah.
And a lot of damages always happen when another boat crashes into you and sinks your boat.
Yeah.
Which is, if your boat is safe and another boat isn't safe, is as bad as your boat was not safe in the first place.
Our friends that lost their boat in St. Martin last year, a catamaran flipped over and landed on their boat.
Yeah.
So their boat was actually fine for the first half of the hurricane, and the second half flipped another boat on top of them, which is crazy.
So once you can get back on the boat and the hurricane season's passed, what's your plan then? Where's the next destination? Like, have you got it mapped out for the next couple of years? You know where you want to go? Or
Today's plan.
today? But that's kind of cool, right? It's
We have a little bit of a plan, and plans change every day. If you're on a boat, you already know that. But we're hoping to redo Haiti and the Bahamas this season. And then next year we want to cross over to Europe, come here hopefully with the boat about this time.
Yeah.
And we want to do it from Greenland and Iceland. That's the big plan.
There's a very short window to get to Greenland before you get stuck there.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
You gotta time it just right, but it's beautiful and it's a really neat sail, especially Greenland, because you're very isolated and it's just icebergs and polar bears, and then make it over to Iceland and then run down the UK as fast as you can.
Try not to get stuck in the winter, because once you're stuck in the winter there, you have to stay there.
Pretty much. It also breaks it up into short sails. I think the longest sail is only 500 miles then. So it's more time exploring cool places and less time just hanging out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Sleeping.
And it'll be your first crossing?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We've done long passages before, but not technically across a major ocean.
And how confident are you guys about doing a crossing like that? Is it because when we talked before, I just found it so mind-blowing, but also heartwarming that actually you've never sailed before you got the boat, you've never had anything to do with boats, you've never even been on a boat before, and then you put so much time and effort and love and passion into this amazing project, not knowing whether you'd like it or not.
There's always a risk in anything you do. You have to try it. Yeah. If you don't try, you don't know if you like it or not, right?
Yeah.
And so we know we can sail to the horizon. We said that earlier. If you can sail to the next horizon, then you can keep going to the next horizon, and then separating this big, overwhelming crossing the Atlantic idea into little bit of chunks. Then, because even if you cross from south, you do crossing the Atlantic. You only have to do from here to Bermuda, which is
900 miles.
900 miles,
like a week, so.
Which we've done, and then from Bermuda to Azores is another section, and then Azores to Portugal is section. So you separate each overwhelming idea into smaller steps, and it becomes more realistic and more
much more realistic. Well, and the reality of sailing too is, especially with crossing, 98% of the time you're asleep reading a book. There's just, it's just, you set your sails, you're going, and it's fine. And then every once in a while a nasty storm comes through or something, and it's really exciting and kind of stressful, but then the next day it's fine again. I know if we cross north, there's a much higher chance of getting caught in a week of bad weather, not just a bad squall going by. Yeah, crossing low on the Atlantic is, so just, our friends crossed, their average speed was 3 knots. The Gulfstream moves at 3 knots, if that tells you how calm of a sail it was.
So they were drifting.
So, did they sail or did they just kind of float in?
They kind of drifted for most of it, yeah. But yeah, a lot of sailing is just kind of boring. It's just reading, it's watching the waves go by, dolphins show up. But you have to be okay with just being patient and just allowing yourself to not do anything for a day. Yeah. To be ready for that time when you really have to do everything all at once in 30 seconds.
So talk to me about upcycling. Everybody, thank goodness, everybody is switching focus. There's a shift in the world, and sustainability, single-use plastics, marine health. But then also bringing that home. Your home is your boat, and actually using upcycling and pimping the things that you can find and you can buy cheaply is something that you guys really have taken to another level, right?
Yeah, well, the thing with, we actually just got a comment sort of about this, because Kika just did her garden, little corner in our boat, and probably 80% of the plants are real plants, but then some of them are plastic. People are like, oh, you guys are putting plastic in your boat. And you're like, the whole boat's made out of plastic. The sails are plastic, the boat's plastic, the rope is plastic, the countertops are plastic, the floor is plastic. Like, epoxy is plastic. But for us, you know, that to us is a much more, well, like you said, it's upcycling, because our boat was, you know, scheduled to be demolished. Like, it was going into a landfill somewhere, and instead we added a little bit of plastic to make it better, rather than, you know, going and getting something that's been made brand new. And when it comes to, you know, the plastics in general, like, you know, it's a great material. You know, like, it works really well, but when you're throwing it away every time, that's when it becomes an issue. Like,
yeah. It's about being reusable instead of disposing it every day, yeah.
Yeah. That's more of the issue than you know, ideally every boat would be made out of wood. But then,
I think they're biodegradable. I'm almost certain they're going to say the bar. Are they biodegradable? Do they say on them? If they're not, they should
eventually.
It says recycling, I think, yes.
Anyway, that's their thing.
No,
they should be.
It is kind of interesting.
No,
the beer's biodegradable.
Is it? I don't know. Yeah, let's not drink anymore.
That's an interesting topic, for goodness.
But and we get it a lot with the electric motor too, because, you know, we have new batteries, and we have, like, there's a lot of components that have gone into building an electric motor, and the amount we've been able to motor, like, yeah, if we had a diesel, we'd only use 20 gallons of diesel by now, but that's not really the point. You know, the point is that the electricity that we use every day, we got that day, instead of a million years ago. So for us, that's a better step forward than relying on something that took a million years to produce.
Right, I want to hear about some of your adventures, because I have watched quite a lot of your videos in preparation for these talks. Now, I would like you to tell me a little bit about what happened when you were on the boat and you saw flashlights and it was at night and there were divers.
Oh,
oh, that night.
Take it away, Kika. You watched that one, did you?
I love that video.
That was underwater. Oh, that's what's fun. It was underwater naked night dive, wasn't it? So that video, what happened? We were in the BVIs, I believe, and so usually in the BVIs, a little bit of an inside secret is that they have a lot of day moorings where people come for the day, especially charters. You're not supposed to sail at night, so they charter and moor the boat for the day and then go back to the marina, or they're supposed to be for the night moorings. And what we did to be a little more secluded, when they would leave, that's when we would come in. They would leave the mooring boat and we would come and grab the mooring boat for the night and spend the morning there and then leave by the time they come back. The issue with that was we didn't know that there's a section that night divers would come and do a nice night dive.
We thought we had the whole place for ourselves, sun went down, ready to shower.
And then a boat came up and then we saw them going in the water. We're like, oh, they're diving there, and I can see that, like, it was really beautiful. It's like seeing dragons like floating underneath the water. And so we said, well, let's jump in and see what they're up to. And they're not going to see us because it's dark, obviously. We jumped in. We were naked because we just showered. And little as we know, a flashlight just turns around and sees us.
What we didn't realize is there was two groups of divers, and so we were down following the forward group, because we were trying to see, like, what they were, because we dove before sunset and we're like, well, there's nothing down there. It's like sand, there's some reef, like, who would night that down here? And so we were kind of following one, and then as I was coming up and Kiko was behind me, we were looking, like, this other group of divers was like, like 8 flashlights. I was like, hey guys, don't mind us.
And then, but then we figured that maybe they see our silhouette, right? Because it's still nighttime. If you flash something, it's like being silhouetted. Like, they didn't see us. They didn't. Maybe we had suits on or something. And then the first thing we heard when we got on the boat was, "Did you see those people? I think they were naked." Oh my god.
That was interesting.
So that was a highlight of that night.
They will never forget that dive ever.
FYI, it is a little bit like staying at the Holiday Inn and believing that the really tiny, thin curtains that they give you are okay.
Like, oh, they don't see us.
They're really not. I walked back last night and was like, ooh, Ooh, yeah, I need to close the big curtains. Okay, I got it. Just a heads up.
All right, good to know. Good to know. Especially if we're on like the first floor there.
Yeah, no, so good. So what's been in your mind the funniest thing that's happened when you've been on board?
Well, that's one of them.
Yeah, that is a very funny one.
That one's going to be a hard one to beat.
The funniest moment, that's kind of a tough one.
I don't know. We always get asked what's the scariest moment. I don't think we've ever been asked what's the funniest moment.
You want to answer the scariest moment?
I want to know everything.
Funniest moment.
Well,
one of the funnier moments, well, I'm not sure if it was funny, but it's a relatively good story. So in the Caribbean, the wind always blows from east to west. The trade winds always blow east to west. We left from Miami, and we were sailing east, which means sailing against the wind, which usually sucks. But because we weren't in a hurry, we kind of like timed the weather and timed the wind, and there's northers that come down, and they blow the wind the opposite direction. So we kind of waited for those. We'd sail a bit, anchor, waited for another one to sail a bit, anchor. So most of our sailing east, we actually did downwind. But the first time we did was the first time we'd ever actually sailed downwind. So we were used to beating, and we were used to what the boat felt like when we were sailing in the wind. It's rough, uncomfortable, you're heeled over, feel steady. And I was down below sleeping in the V-berth because it was that calm. And then the wind picked up, and we were wing on wing, and I was just having a great nap, and I woke up, and I could hear us like just surfing down the waves, and I was like, oh, the wind must have picked up. I come out, and Kika's just like leaning on the helm, she's going back. We didn't have autopilot back then. And she's full smile on her face, and I'm like, you good? She's like, yeah, this is fun. I'm like, how fast are we going? She's like, 15 knots. I'm like, we should reef. Like, this isn't what our boat's supposed to do. We're just like, you can hear the boat just screaming down the wave, and she's just like having a good old time, and like, we need to bring our sails in right now. But yeah, that was it was interesting because like nothing bad happened, but it was just one of those times where it was like the first time like properly going downwind, and she was just having a blast.
I think an unrelated story about funny moments is when we rescued a dinosaur
Oh, that was fun.
from the water.
That was a man overboard drill.
Yeah, that was our first man overboard drill we've ever did. It was more of a floating dinosaur drill. We were sailing from one island of the VI to the other, and we saw something green in the distance. Like, what is that? That's weird. We got the binoculars and we got closer and closer. Like, I still don't know what it is. Whatever it is, let's go pick it up. And so we said, well, that would be a good practice to do a man overboard, see how we can sail and pick something up while we sail.
Yeah, without using the motor to travel.
And then we got closer, and I got the hook, and we did a couple passes because obviously the first time doesn't work out. And then when I picked it up, it was a decapitated dinosaur floaty.
You know, like the pool toys that they have on the back of like the big mega yachts and stuff. All the charter boats have them.
Oh, it's pretty big.
Yeah,
It was bigger than this beanbag. Yeah.
It took up the whole the foredeck of our boat. It's the size of a dinghy. Yeah.
We kept it for a while. We were just hauling it behind our boat.
Yeah.
So you would see the body of the dinosaur, and then the head is completely like deflated. But then it got salt water in it, and then we just decided to throw it at some point.
It was interesting though. We did do it under sail. We did one pass, and then we came back around, and then we came, and Kika had our gaff like to pick up fish. We're like, don't pop it. So she was like very carefully like trying to hook it through the handle as we're sailing by. That was interesting.
That was interesting.
So, what was the scariest moment then? You said people normally ask you that. It's for a reason, isn't it? Because I suppose we have got a...
I know what
I know what yours is.
For me.
So the thing with us in sailing is we try to like always mentally do what if games like all the time. So like what if what if this breaks? What if a boat's here? So you always kind of when something does happen and it's catches you off guard, theoretically you've already done it 1,000 times in your mind, so it kind of feels routine to you. But so we don't. I don't think we've ever gotten, well, you kind of have. I don't think we've ever gotten proper scared on the boat, but there has been times that have been really stressful. Sailing north in the Windward Passage to go on top of Haiti, we were caught in like relatively high wind, we were beating into it, and our boat, like we couldn't reef our sails small enough because we didn't have enough reefs in, and it was dark, and we were sailing into an unmarked bay. We were supposed to get there in the day, but we weren't, and like, the moon wasn't out yet, and we only had like one harness, and I was flipped in because I was in the harness in the cockpit. And I remember Kika coming out, and she went, I wish we had 2 harnesses. Like that was her stress level. She was like, I wish we had 2 harnesses because like it was really nasty. But we kind of had to wait for the moon to come up so we could see to get into the bay because it was just all black. There's just nothing. There's no lights. There's no anything. But we knew the bay because we'd been there before. We just couldn't physically see where it was, and the charts in Haiti are pretty much non-existent.
Do you guys have lights on the boat?
Yeah. But they don't do any good. Like the nav lights were on, which just meant we could see the wave that was about to crash over the bow, but that was it. You couldn't see the next one, and they were really close together.
And here's the thing at night too, like usually when the moon is out, you can see.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it's super clear. You can see the waves for like.
Yeah. And we were only 4 miles away from the entrance. Like we knew where it was. We just didn't trust the charts because we knew the charts were off. And so so like she's never been like scared, huddled down. We've never been like freaked out, like we can't do this anymore. But like that was her version of scared. It's like I wish we had two harnesses. So after that, we got 2 harnesses.
Well, we hope to. We're just basically putting your boat on neutral, and then we waited for the moon to rise so we know where the waves were coming from, and then from that point we were comfortably going in the bay.
So how do you navigate? Do you have any AIS? Do you have do you download the plots? How do you do it when you're?
We have Navionics, which is basically charts, and surprisingly in Haiti they actually work really, really well. We were very hesitant.
Yeah, our iPad was the most accurate chart plot we had, maybe.
But we don't have AIS, we don't have radar. Right now we're actually working on getting it because if we're planning on going north, we're going to have problems with fog, which is a big problem. If you don't have radar, you can't see in front of you. But beyond the charts and the GPS and then the depth sounder, that's basically all we work with.
Well, and in the Caribbean, it's really nice because you can get by with hardly anything. Like, we met people who were literally paddleboarding to the Caribbean island to island. We met people on these little, like, if you guys have been across the bridge, those little wooden boats over there, taking those to the Caribbean with, like, a cinder block tied on a rope as an anchor. Like, it was, for us, we chose it because it was a very easy, like, learning ground to learn how to sail. Because the water's clear enough, you can see where the shallow spots are. The island's right there, and you can see the weather coming. You know, like, I'm going to be in that island in 3 hours. Like, yeah, we have time, let's go. So it's really easy, like, baby steps to learn. And then we did longer and longer passages. By the time you get to the other end of the Caribbean, the weather gets kind of nasty. But, yeah, it was an easy place to learn.
I'm going to open it up to the audience now. We've got maybe time for 3 or 4 questions from the audience. Have we got any questions for Kiko or Dad? Yes.
Are you going to get lifelines and stanchions?
Not yet.
That's the next project.
Yeah, we removed our lifelines when we started because they just broke apart so easily. We didn't want to trust them, and we had. Ever since the beginning, we had planned to install stainless steel guardrails. Yeah. And in our minds, we thought that in the Caribbean it's cheaper. So let's wait till we're in the Caribbean to get it done. And every island that would get a quote would be more expensive. Either the labor would be more expensive or the material would be from the States. So
add 30%.
Add taxes, and then in Colombia, we couldn't find it. And then in Guatemala, we thought we would actually be doing it. We were ready to do it. But they didn't have the real material. They had 304 instead of 360, which means in salt water, it would rust instantly. And so we ended up getting a better quote in the States.
We've just kind of gotten used to not having them. The one time that, the one scenario where we were like, it'd be really nice if we were out in the ocean to have them is like pulling down our head sail if it ripped out or something, because it would fall off the deck right now. But yeah, we like to say do it right or do it twice. And the ones that came on our boat were just absolute crap, and we got rid of them. We could have replaced them with the same thing, but then we'd have to replace them again anyway, so we just hang on like our life depends on it. It kind of does.
Well, on our boat, we got used to knowing, because it's our boat, and we got on and off of it so many times, we got used to knowing what to hold on to. Every time that I got a little squinch in my belly was when we had guests on board they didn't know where to hold them to. But for us, we're so used to it that it's second nature.
Where it got really interesting was after the Rio Dulce, because we had just climbed the deck, and we thought we were going to do the rails there, so we took off all the handrails we had just climbed. So from the Rio back to Florida with no non-skid, no handrails, no nothing, it was very interesting. Going forward was just like this army crawl of things. But no, it's the next project. When we got to Florida, we weren't expecting to really do any of the work we've done there. But while we had access to the shop and everything, we basically knocked out our 5-year to-do list in 3 months.
Yeah.
And what we were trying to do when we got there was do non-skid and rails, and then it rained every day, so we couldn't do either.
So we did everything else.
And then we were supposed to go to Charleston to get it done, and now Charleston got hit by a hurricane, so we're like, it is like the last 2 big projects we want to do before we head to the Bahamas is non-skid and rails, so, and then, we're good.
Great. Any more questions? Yeah, one of there.
Hello.
Hi, you're right. We watch you quite a lot on YouTube.
Oh, that's
We
sweet.
watch the same all the time. What's the most amazing thing you've ever seen, and where was it?
Can I pick that one?
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. I think you're probably the same one.
go for it. I'll let
When
you know
we
if you
were,
come.
for me, up to today, when we were our first sail up to North Carolina, we were becalmed 4 hours, and dolphins showed up. And normally,
It
because
was
we
the
had.
first time we were becalmed, so we were like, it was just glassy calm. You couldn't see the horizon because the ocean and the sky just merged.
Yeah,
we
it
were
was
like,
like a
I guess
swimming
this is
pool.
what becalmed is like.
And because we have an electric motor, we just wait for the winds to pick up. And dolphins showed up, and so we decided we're going to go for a swim. And that was the most magical moment for me because the dolphins came to maybe a meter away from us, and they were
So
swimming
cool.
and following us along. And yeah, that was beautiful.
That was really cool. It's hard to top that one. Yeah, that was amazing.
She got it right.
I got it right.
you got it right.
You did.
Gold star.
We've probably got time for one more question. If that, yes. Oh, we can do 2. That's fine.
Hi. So you both started out this project with minimal sailing experience.
That's right.
What have been your biggest mistakes?
Oh, good one.
And what have you learned to gain from them?
Buying a boat? No. Early on, we made some pretty good ones.
They were not big.
They weren't really big, but they were very like, oh, that could have ended badly. You know, like glad we didn't do that. Sailing into Charleston the first time, we thought we had timed the tides, but it was 5 days of offshore. So by the time we got there, the information we had wasn't quite right. And we were sailing, and we were kind of like bottlenecks to come out of the break, and we were tacking in because the wind is always against us. And we didn't realize that the current was supposed to be like a knot or so, and right where it kind of bottlenecked was like 4. So we were tacking and we were going backwards, like we were pointing in and we were heading this way. And we also had the mainsail reefed, but we had lost the winch handle or something.
Yeah.
So we were trying to figure out how to unreef it and get the mainsail up. So I was forward, and we had like the main halyard running back to a cockpit winch, and it was this crazy thing. And we're sailing sideways like across the canal. And so we were both, and we're trying to video it. So we were both very distracted. And I remember looking up and I'm like, do you hear a bell? Yeah, it was like ding, ding, ding. It sounds really close. And like I look underneath our Genoa, and there's this giant like buoy just like from me to you away. And we just freaked out. We ran back, and since that was one of those times where the electric motor like totally saved our butts because it's always on. Like you push the switch and it's there. We didn't have to start anything. So yeah, we ran back and I just like threw it in reverse. We did like this little like weird drifting maneuver around, and we missed it by like a foot. But that was one of those times where like if we were just above it and we got pushed up against it, that would have done a lot of damage. Those things are steel and they're big and they got pointy edges and stuff.
I think the lesson we learned is don't sail against a strong tide.
Well, you guys
know
probably know that here. You got crazy tides here. But yeah, that was, and now also because we've sailed in and out of enough anchorages and bays, we know like we roll up even if we sail slower, we roll up the Genoa so we can see underneath it and like keep a good eye out because.
And if we know there's a strong tide, we wait.
Yeah.
Like, we don't mind waiting.
That's what we did that day. We went back out and there was no tide out there. We waited with the cargo ships, drank a beer, made some breakfast, had 4 hours of just like hanging out, turned around and rocketed in at like 7 knots with the tide behind us. It was really nice.
Great, one more.
I'm going to grow a beard or something.
What's that?
Are you going to grow a beard?
This is it, man.
I don't think you can.
This is like I haven't shaved in 2 weeks.
That's the beard.
No, that's almost true, actually. So.
But Kika's hair is going to get way bigger.
Yeah. It only goes bigger from there.
She's got life goals.
Yeah. The planet right here. Does whatever he wants.
Guys, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for all the great questions. I think that Nico and Dan are going to be around tomorrow and the rest of today as well in the photo show.
I think we'll be walking around a bit.
Yeah, they're going to have a walk around. I'm going to have to just take them for an interview straight after this. But like I say, they are going to be around the photo show. So if you did have any questions or anything or wanted to photograph them, yeah.
Absolutely.
You can catch the flag.
Of course. Yeah.
Catch the flag.
If you find us, you'll get a sticker.
Guys, can you please give them an amazing round of applause? It is a cool thing. Thank you. And if you don't follow them, you can follow Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You're on all of the platforms, aren't you?
Yeah. Instagram and YouTube more than the others.
Yeah. And the YouTube channel is Sailing Uma. So if you just Google that and you can follow, subscribe, and it's well worth it.
Awesome.
And thank you guys so much. I'm going to drag you off for an interview now, but we've got music on this stage. We've also got the Southampton Boat Show is open until next Sunday. Please come back, bring your friends. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. If you want to get out on the water, you can. It's completely free. Go see Rockley. They've got loads of experiences for you. I just done a paddleboard yesterday and it's so great. And the wind stuck down a little bit, so you might be okay.